All right, Morgan Chalfin here. Those of you who are following me on Tumblr, following me on my Facebook page, I'm going to link this on those, so you can come listen to it if you want to. Those of you who have not listened to my movie reviews before, it's just a passion of mine. I just like reviewing movies, as millions of others people do on YouTube as well. Maybe you'll find some more enjoyment listening to me babble as opposed to somebody else. I don't know. I hope so. With all these movie reviews I do, I try to kind of remain objective, which isn't always the easiest thing to do. I also try to compile lists of facts from depending on what I'm doing, whether it's a remake or whether it's its own film, it's a new film, new concept. I try to be objective, and my motto has always kind of been I can always find something good in every movie, whether it's from the smallest thing to maybe the largest thing. But tonight, I guess in this case, I'm going to review the new Robocop, the Robocop remake. Oh yes, that many people were dreading, and some people, I don't know these people, but some people were probably excited. I just got finished watching it, so it's fresh in my head. Bear with me, I might have missed a few things. So, post a comment down below, subscribe, let me know what you think, let me know what you thought of the film. Try to keep it G-rated. I try to keep my reviews G-rated. I may drop a few bombs here every now and then by accident or on purpose, but, we're hoping that there's no kids watching these anyway. Also, spoiler alert right now, if you have not seen this movie, don't watch this review. Stop it right here, because I'm going to spoil the hell out of this movie. Some would argue it's already spoiled just by being made, but I guess that's beside the point here now. It's been forever since I've done a movie review. I got on a streak there where I was doing quite a few. I did Elysium and several others there right in a row. I ranted about The Lone Ranger, which is on my page as well, which you can listen to that rant, which is far from G-rated, so be prepared if you listen to it. So anyway, I'm back to the movie review game. Finally got time to do it. I've been kind of busy working on Focused Insanity stuff, waiting for the editor to get the first tier edits back to me so I can start working on that. I've got another book that's being looked at by another publishing company. Waiting to hear back from them at this point. And I'm working on some other stuff as well. So been pretty busy. So I'm glad I found time to do this. Let's get right into it. You guys didn't come here to listen to me babble about that. You saw the Robocop and you're like, I'm going to watch this. So let's get to Robocop. All right. Let's start out by saying that this movie was not particularly terrible. It wasn't terrible, which is not an achievement. I'll just say that right now. It's not an achievement. My initial fears with this movie was when they first announced it that they were making it PG-13 instead of R. That could have gone either way. Really, it could have. I mean, for me, I was thinking, well, dude, why don't you just keep it the way, keep it R the way it is? And I mean, it gives you a lot of free range of motion and stuff. You can do a lot of other cool things. But this is a classic example of Hollywood bureaucratic dumbasses. Dropping a rating in favor of more money, making more money. Because, I mean, in the end, it's a money-making game to them. They don't care about making a good film. They care about making money. Which right now, it's getting clobbered in the box office. I just wanted to... I already pulled this stuff up ahead of time. I actually remembered this time. As I'm speaking here, the box office totals are somewhere around something like 7 million gross on Robocop right now. It's sitting at like number 4 on the box office, behind the Lego Movie, About Last Night, and Endless Love, and then Robocop at number 4. Now, you could make the allowance that they were idiots and opening at Valentine's Day weekend. I don't know what they're thinking about. So these two out of three of these movies are Valentine's Day movies, and a couple's probably not going to go see RoboCop. It's probably going to go see one of those. So the Lego movie, I can totally see. When I saw the preview for that, I was going to be a powerhouse, and it's sitting at number one. So you could argue that they were just dumb when they opened the movie, but I still don't think that's it, because in the end, people are going to go if they want to see the movie. Anyway, let's get off the box office thing here and move on. The new movie here, okay. The character of Alex Murphy. Oh, how I hated this character in this movie. Hate might be a strong word, I guess. I didn't completely dislike him. And, I mean, it's certainly, I would say, not Joel Kinnaman, I think is his name, Joel Kinnaman, yeah, who plays Alex Murphy in this. Certainly not really his fault to an extent. But his Alex Murphy is not dynamic at all. And I'm not talking Alex Murphy in the suit. I'm talking Alex Murphy before he becomes Robocop. There is a point in the original movie and in this movie where you see him, of course, up to the point before he becomes Robocop. This new movie, I feel nothing for this guy. Like, he just seems like a regular kind of driven cop. Like, okay. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm a little nostalgic for the old one, which, I mean, is of course possible because I grew up around, watching that thing. And, but being, from an objective point of view, he's just not the right, I guess, I wouldn't even say he's not the right Alex Murphy, because he's certainly, he's got the look of like a young Peter Weller in a lot of ways. He's just not dynamic, and I don't know if that's because of the way he's acting it or because of the scenes that they give him before they turn him into RoboCop. I would err on the way that it's the filmmakers and the writers that they just didn't really write any good scenes for him. In this, you get him coming into the office and kind of accusing the two cops in the office of being dirty and talking to the captain and everything, and about how his sting was fooled and everything like that. And you get that, so you get some, okay, he's driven, he's wanting to do a good job, okay, that's good. He's a driven cop, okay. The part that falls apart is really, I mean, you see the shootout with him and his partner, who is Jack Lewis. I have no idea why they changed the character of Lewis to a guy. I have no idea. I finished this movie and I'm just like, what? Why? Why would you do that? And this is after finishing it, and I'm still like, what the hell? I mean, I thought, oh, they're going to turn it into kind of a buddy cop kind of dynamic between them, as opposed to, strong female character, which we'll get to that later on this movie. But, yeah, I don't understand that. But back to the scenes, like, you see the shootout with Alex and his friend, and Lewis's character gets shot and ends up in the hospital. And, okay, big foreshadowing, like he's standing over his buddy in the hospital bed. You're going to be in the hospital bed pretty soon, or you're going to, wow, okay. But at no time in this first part of this movie do I feel for either of these two people. At the first of this movie, there's no connection to them. Like, I don't think that these two guys are that close. And I would think you could probably ask a bunch of cops. If they've had a partner they're pretty close. They're probably their partners. They're probably pretty good, pretty close. Some of them maybe not, but for the most part, I would say you're probably pretty close with your partner because you're putting your hands in their life every day. This, it just doesn't feel that way. That's where the old film, excelled. I would argue, I mean, I don't know, I watched the original as well here recently, just so my mind would be fresh on this. I mean, a lot of people will argue that, okay, the old one, oh, yeah, he's on screen as Alex Murphy before RoboCop, like, 20 minutes, not even 20 minutes into the movie, he's turning to RoboCop or something. I mean, some people could argue that, but I'll argue right back that you have several instances in the original that make Weller a sympathetic character. Weller's Alex Murphy is, like, immediately you're, like, drawn to him. Because he comes in as a new cop transferred into the precinct. Not a detective, he's just a beat cop, he's just a cop. And that's where this film kind of goes wrong, too, is, I'm sorry, you can wear a uniform and be a low cop and not, you don't have to be a detective in the leather jacket, and then that's a small gripe. But Weller's character of Alex, in that short time we see him, you get, okay, I can name a couple here. You get some dynamic chemistry between him and Nancy Allen's character of Ann Lewis. Within like 13 minutes, you see and you feel for this thing. You're like, oh, these two, okay, they're clicking. That's good. And it's not a sexual click in any way. Really, I mean, you could probably argue that, but because, Alex is married, of course, but Anne embodies the strong female character, of which there is not a single strong female character in this new one, which really kind of pisses me off, honestly. But you get the point where Weller, as in the old one, Weller watches Nancy Allen's character of Ann Lewis beat this perp down. He's trying to assault her, and beats this guy to a bloody pulp in the front of the office there. And she looks at him, and he's like, pretty neat. And it's just that expression, like, pretty neat, like, okay. And she introduces herself, and immediately you're like, I like this guy, And, and then there's the razz about, she goes to drive, and he goes, nope, I usually drive when breaking in a new partner. So there's that banter between them, And then you get the part where they're having coffee right before he goes and, they go and get shot up, where he's spinning his gun. Spinning his gun and holstering it and stuff. Oh, my kid likes this show, TJ Laser. That's a connection right there. That's a good father. It's a guy who loves his family. And you don't have to show the sex in it or anything like that. You don't have to show that, to do a connection. It's that simple gun twirl that does it. And in that amount of time, you like Alex Murphy's character. In this new one, there really is nothing to connect them. Like, they try to do a small thing where the kid's watching, like, the hockey games, and his dad, he comes in and talks to him. And then the wife and, forgive me, I can't think of her name. It'll come to me. Abby Cornish, who plays his wife. There's a short little scene where they're starting to get hot and heavy. And then he goes out as the car alarm's going off and gets blown up. So you get this brief little stint into what, his connection to his family. But even in the original, when he starts to remember his family, he starts to remember memories of what they did together. And in this new one, unless I missed something, there might have been one short one in there. I think there was. Yeah, there was the wedding, or him dreaming before they wake him up in the first movie. Them dancing at, like the wedding or something. Okay, all right, I can argue that. But throughout the movie, like, he's remembering in fragmented memories of his home and certain little memories that he has with his wife and his kid. And that translates much better into a damaged psyche than this new one there's no real connection at all. It really pissed me off because, that's not really the fault of the actors, it's the fault of the writers. And, so, partner chemistry, lead actor, old one still wins. I'm sorry. Getting back to what I just said, where he gets blown up by a car bomb. Okay. I had to pause this movie because I really wanted to see. I went back and I paused it, and how am I going to put this? I started to look at screenshots and stuff that I found on the internet of the explosion, to see, and this may be just reading a little too far into it, I tend to do that, but how his face is not burned at all. It says something about his eyes are are burned, or one of his eyes is what Gary Oldman says is has retinal damage, like it's been burned. But his face isn't burned around it. Even though he takes the blast in the face, pretty much. The door is in front of him, but it's at chest level. That explosion would come up and hit him right in the face. I'm sorry. Yet his face is okay. And they established that his head is his own. Like, his brain is there, his head is there. It's not like the old Robocop where the face is literally just sutured on. The car bomb thing seems like an out. It doesn't seem... I don't know. It just doesn't seem... it seems loose and not even... It seems lazy. That's what it seems. It's lazy. The death in the old one, which anyone who's seen the original movie, you can't watch that scene and not remember it. It's probably one of the most iconic scenes as far as a death of a main character, in a sense death, I guess, goes. I mean, you can't watch that and not remember it. It's one of the, I mean, the whole movie, in a sense, is one of those movies where you're like, you're not, if somebody asks you if you've seen the original Robocop, you're never like, oh yeah, I think I saw it a long time ago. No, you're like, oh yeah, I saw it. It's one of those movies that you'll never forget. And as is the brutal, oh my god, terrible death scene of Peter Weller's Alex Murphy in the original, where he's pretty much shot into pieces. If you get the new director's cut that came out, which is the one I watched here recently, you wouldn't think this movie could get any bloodier, but it does. It is ultimately visceral and terrible. And I understand with the PG-13 rating, there's probably a limited thing they could do for him being murdered. But hey, there's where you wrote yourself into a corner, you idiots, you know? When you have somebody die in a brutal death, well, maybe that doesn't translate into PG-13 very well. You know, and in the old one, I mean, it's about as brutal as you can get. And it's that brutality that makes us feel even more for Alex Murphy, because he's killed face to face by this guy. Like the character is played by Kurtwood Smith. That's his name, Kurtwood Smith, who, you know, is probably most known for that 70s show now. But Boddicker, that's the name of the character. Yeah, and Ray Wise is in there and his gang, and I mean several other people. But he's murdered face to face. He's shot, not just shot, but he is brutally shot to pieces by this gang. And being blown up by a car bomb is a distance factor to it, where, yeah, I mean, okay, if somebody tried to kill me, I'm probably still going to be pissed, but it's like, it's a lazy way of getting out of it, you know? It's like, oh, well, we made this movie PG-13, and we can't very well show in any way a way of having his body be so mangled that we can't keep any of it. So we're just going to blow him up in this, you know, okay. So anyway, I mean, they failed there too. It's that simple. The face-to-face murder in the original is really one of the ones that drives it better, because, you know, it's so brutal. It's so evil. You know, this guy, I mean, anybody who's gonna step on a dude's arm and then blow his hand off and just watch him, like, hold it, you know, in the original there, Kurtwood Smith does, that's evil. That's downright evil. That's not just, oh, I'm going to shoot you in the head and be on my way. That's, I enjoy murdering. And a bomb, while, okay, you may have a penchant for bombs, this bad guy, but it doesn't show as much malice as that does. And that's really what you need, I think. Moving on, because I'm starting to babble. The action in this new one here. The action in the new one is pretty decent. Like, I really liked it. Like, I mean, I knew that the CGI, it was going to be fun, probably. But you know, frankly, I expected better. I really expected better. I don't know what other people thought, but I thought that, I mean, it was just kind of, I mean, you look at the old movie as well, and I mean, there's only so much you can do with a like Robocop. He's a walking tank, pretty much. So he's going to take bullets, he's going to get hit, and he's going to target lock, and he's going to shoot. Okay. In this, it's just in the new one it's just kind of empty, I guess. Um, a lot of this the original movie is the practical effects. And in the original movie, the practical effects, the majority of them still hold up, which is amazed the hell out of me. Oh my God, Weller still looks great in that freaking suit. And that's where your practical effects. That's why I'm a fan of practical effects. Is this CG in this movie, in this new one, seemed to be a little off at a few points in the movie. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm saying it's recognizable as CG. It's, and of course, I mean, an intelligent person can tell CG and, when it's not, But I'm talking like, you look at Transformers, and yes, I know those robots are CG, but they look real. The movements, they look so perfect. Okay? And that's probably the perfect example compared to this. The CG don't hold up as much. It does to an extent in a lot of parts, but in certain parts it doesn't at all. So, newer isn't always better. It's a crisp movie, like it looks pretty, but there's one scene where he's attacking the warehouse in the dark, and okay, they're wanting to use the scope, the heat sensor, the thermal imaging and all that. Okay, I can understand that. That's cool. That's awesome. But they make it too dark. You can't even see him. Like, you can't, because he's black. You can't see him in the dark, like, moving around. You see the gunfire and stuff, but, it's empty. Like, you get the same scene in the original where he walks into a warehouse in broad daylight, and it's a shootout, and the whole time you're like, this is kind of freaking cool. Because he's actually, you can see him moving, you can see the bullets hitting him, It looks like a metal robot. A guy that's mostly robot. Whereas this, it looks like a dude in a suit. It doesn't look crisp enough. The redeeming feature of this movie was Gary Oldman's character of the doctor. Dr. Dennett, I think his name was. Dr. Norton, something like that. His character was good. I really liked the sympathetic doctor character. And that actually translated better, because in the original it was a woman, if you remember, if everyone that's seen the original remembers. But, it's Gary Oldman, too. The man's amazing, Plays his character perfect. I have nothing bad to say about Oldman's performance. He is amazing in the entire movie. The only thing is, they just don't give him enough to do, really, in spots. But he's sympathetic, and I liked his character. I'm actually kind of surprised they didn't kill him off, too. But, that's a great character. He's probably the best character in the entire movie, I'd say. What else should I go on to here now? Let's go on to the big 50 cal drop. Oh, my God. This is dropped like 3 or 4 times in the movie. Make sure to go bigger than 50, above 50 caliber, or his armor can't stand it. Okay. I don't know. Like, in the original, it's established that he's bulletproof. In this one, it's established that he's bulletproof. But in the old one, we don't need to know that. We don't need to know that in the old one. And we still think, okay, he's a walking tank. Okay, these guys probably aren't going to be able to stop him. So that makes it all the more surprising when somebody comes up with something that takes him out. Like, that hits him. Like, so when in the original, when Weller walks into the office and tries to arrest Ronnie Cox's character, which is comparable to the character played by Michael Keaton, you get the big Ed 209, and you're like, okay, this is going to be a fight. I don't have to do any of this 50 caliber bullshit. I don't have to say, oh, this is. They don't even have to state that in the original. You see this Ed 209, and you're like, okay, this is going to be a fight. He may get screwed up. Oh my God, he might get ripped up. And that's simply by just playing to your strong suits, playing to your villain. Like, okay, there it is. Your Ed 209. Boom, there it is. There's your threat to him, your imminent threat. But in this movie, it seems like a way out. Like, in that warehouse, I think the guy hits him with a grenade. It's probably like an M40 grenade, whatever, Maybe it's an M40 Sabo round or something. But he does. He shoots him with it. Okay, that's cool. That's okay. I can establish that. If he hits him, it's probably going to do some damage. But in that warehouse, it shows him he's all shot up and stuff. Like, his armor's ripped to shit. Like, and I'm looking through the warehouse on what these guys are using, from what I can see, because it's really dark. Throughout the movie, I saw a couple of M4s in there. Some M4 machine guns. I might have seen a SIG in there, maybe. Probably with some ACRs in there, too. But most of the guys in the warehouse, you see people using Heckler & Koch MP5s, MP7s, and Vector machine guns. All small caliber submachine guns that would just dink off his armor. It's not going to do shit. I'm sorry. Also, the big fault in this entire movie is he's got a shield that comes down below his nose. And it's his real head up there. It's the classic argument for the old one, is if you shoot Robocop in the mouth, would it kill him? And in the old one, it's pretty well established that no, because his face is on there, but it's not his head. His brain is up there, but it's not his head. Like, his face is stitched on. So if you shot him in the mouth, you're just going to hit metal mouth. Like, that's it. In this, it's his real face. I don't know about you, but if I'm the back guy in the warehouse, I'm going to have a thermal scope on that baby, and I'm just going to aim at his face and just unload a whole freaking clip at his head level, and I'm going to hit him in the cheeks and in the mouth, and he's going to die. And you can't tell me with all that gunfire he's taken coming straight on in there that they don't hit him in the face. I'm sorry. Okay. Now, I mean, you can make the argument in the old one, too, he doesn't get hit in the face, too. But the difference is, if he got hit in the face in the original, he's not going to die. In this one, he would die. So, I don't know. I mean, it's probably in the new one, their attempt to make him more human, in a sense. But, I mean, again, I'm feeling more human watching Peter Weller, and he's, all he is a face stitched on, and that's it. It's even established that his eyes aren't his own because he target requisitions with like computer-wise. He targets angles and everything like that. So, in this, in the new one, I think he's got a hand. They keep one of his hands for some reason. Okay? I don't know. They keep his lungs, that you can kind of see him breathing inside this containment thing. And you see his, what's the last thing? Oh, and of course his head. But I don't know. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I don't even want to know. Like, I mean, on the medical chart that they show, the digital medical chart, they show, ironically, that half of his body, like on one side, both of his limbs are still there, and then on the other side, it shows them all they had been blown off. And so it's like, oh, he's half human, half robot, like implied, whatever. But and then later on you see that there is nothing left. Both his legs are gone and everything. But I don't know. I think it was just lazy writing. Like, it was like, oh, we've got to keep a hand. We got to keep something else below the, so he can remain kind of human. And I'm like, no, you don't have to. They've already proven that in the original. Like, Peter Weller's in the original, like, it's a face and that's it. And he still manages to appeal to a human side. The push-button turn-off in the new one, a little convenient. The just dead switch from anywhere in the city. Oh, okay. Man, that thing has a heck of a range. I don't know about you. Man, that must be some EMP or some signal switch off, That little chip they have in there must have a hell of a range, is all I can say. I don't know. Maybe I just think it was too convenient for me. I don't know. I'm not going to spend too much time on that one. The Samuel L. Jackson talk show is way overused in this movie. It is way overused. And I mean, it's the primary way of them getting their larger symbolic plot of where, a maximized government, like military, taking the human factor out of it. Now that's their main platform in the movie to do that. Okay. But it's way overused, and it does not have the appeal that the old ones do in the old movies. The news reports, the cool commercials, like the propaganda and stuff, is so well done in that old one because it knows it's not taking itself too seriously. And you go back and watch that original movie, and it's still relevant today. All the message in that movie is still relevant today. Probably more relevant than ever, actually. So anyone who hasn't seen the original in a while, go watch it, after you watch this, or go watch the old one and then watch the new one. You'll see what I'm talking about. That's not to say that this movie doesn't have anything redeeming in the message, because yes, the message of the movie is actually quite poignant in this time as well. The Michael Keaton character, which is comparable to the Ronny Cox character, as I mentioned earlier, Dick Jones in the original. In this, it's Sellers, Raymond Sellers, I think is what it is. I love Michael Keaton. He's an amazing actor. He's always charismatic, always fun to watch. In this, he just wasn't, and I don't think it was even his fault, because he's playing his character fine. I just think that the writers overall screwed this movie up big time. None of their characters, none of the villains in the movie, I'm really even going, none of these guys are even a threat to him. And I'm sorry, no. Even the climax of the movie is not that great. The new one, I don't understand. You've got, in the original, it's him and Ann Lewis at a steel mill, chemical warehouse, steel mill, one of those. It's them two versus Boddicker and 4 or 5 of his goons, and they all have these big, combat assault rifles that fire these exploding incendiary rounds. Okay, that's cool. We know that he's got under some threat. If he gets hit by one of those, he's done. Did they have to say, oh, it's a 50 count? No, they didn't have to say anything like that. It's established. Okay, these damn things can take it out. When Boddicker, Kurtwood Smith's character, shoots the car toward the end of the movie in the original, just to show him what it does, you're like, okay, one round out of this thing can blow an entire car up. Okay, these things can do some damage, and that's all you need. In this, the climax is just not that great. He goes in and he fights I don't know, he fights it's probably 6 or 7 Ed 209s, and then the smaller version that they say in there too, which they say at the beginning, they establish that there's 2 different Eds. There's the big one, and then there's the medium-sized one. And they don't even ever characterize them again. They don't distinguish between them ever again in the movie. He goes in and fights a bunch of them at the end, and I can't tell which one's which, really. I mean, you could if you probably looked close enough, but the action's so fast-paced in that building when he's fighting. I mean, you don't know which one's which, and really, should you care, But it's a classic example of bad writing and Hollywood having to go, oh, well, we've got all this technology, let's throw 12 more of them in there. I'd have been perfectly happy if he drove in there and had to fight one-on-one with one big one. One big one. One freaking awesome fight where he's got to figure out how to fight this big-ass thing head-to-head. Like in the original. Fights one Ed 209. And it beats the shit out of him. And he outclasses it by going down the stairs. Okay, this thing can't enter small spaces. So, I mean, it's just a classic example of bigger is not always better. I don't know. Then there's the reload thing. You never see him reload in this movie at all. He's just firing and firing and firing and firing and firing and... Okay. Whatever you say. Maybe I missed a reload in there. If I did, please comment on it. Maybe I did. And I mean, to argue, like in the original, you don't see him reload that much either. You see him reload twice, I think, in the first movie. I think it's there's a point right before the ending, you see him reload the gun, and you see Anne reload the gun and hand it to him, I think is the thing. But I mean, I think in the second movie, at the first of the movie when he raids the nuke lab, he shows him after he shot it up, he's reloading. I'm like, okay, you're obviously firing more bullets than would be in a clip, but at least you're doing me the generosity of saying, okay, he's got to reload sometime. I'm not. Don't think I'm stupid. So, I mean, maybe that's overlooking a little bit. Maybe that's looking a little too closely. But again, I mean, maybe it's not. Um, Another problem I had is, okay, he gets his arm stuck under the Ed 209, the big Ed 209. And it's established that his armor's going to take so much. So many bullets from something. And I can't for the life of me remember what kind of rounds. If they said when Jackie Earle Haley, which is one I hadn't mentioned yet, plays the Maddox, the kind of the mercenary character, who's giving him his weapons rundown. I think he tells him what it fires, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But if I remember right, I didn't think that the caliber rounds of them were 50 caliber rounds. Yet he's able to just easily shoot his own arm off. Okay, I can establish, the constant shooting on the same spot is going to do some damage, and it's going to eventually probably break through. But he shoots that baby off in 17 bullets, dead. It's off, and he tears it loose. And I don't know. I think it's too convenient too. But if he did it earlier, say something about a 50 caliber bullet in those guns, I mean, yeah, like I said, comment. I don't remember that if he did or not. Going back to the the Jack Lewis character, he's got to be the worst cop ever. Goes toward the end and saves Alex. Shoots the one dude and then turns to shoot the other dude and gets shot. And he is the slowest target acquisition person I've ever seen. He shoots the one dude, waits 7 seconds, and then turns and tries to shoot the other dude, when he could have shot them both before they turned around. But yes, he has to take a bullet. I don't know. It seemed dumb. I don't know. The director of this movie, I have no idea who he is, honestly. Jose Padilla? Something like that? I don't know. I didn't look much of him up. It's interesting to point out that this is interesting to me. Maybe not to you, but to me it is. The screenplay for the new one is credited by as written by a guy named Joshua Zatumer, and Edward Neumeier. His name is after Zatumer's on IMDb as one of the writers. Edward Neumeier was a writer on the original movie, and I've got to say that he must have been outclassed, or over what's the word I'm even looking for, outvoted on a lot of this stuff, because I can't for the life of me figure out how crappy this screenplay for the new Robocop is that crappy, and the old one is that good. Now, granted, Michael Miner was the other writer on the original movie. He's not credited, I don't think, in here. Let me look. Yeah, I mean he's credited, I guess. But when you click into the writing into the writing credits on IMDb, they both credits them with the 1987 screenplay. So their names are on the new movie, but it's credited in with the 1987 screenplay. So I don't know if they had to list them because they borrowed from the original. That might probably be it. So they may not have even been involved in the movie, which is probably my guess, I would say. But I don't know. I think it's lazy writing, personally. People I've talked to, a lot of people actually kind of like this movie. And I mean, I didn't hate this movie. It's probably seeming like I hate it because I'm picking it apart, which I tend to do. And when these errors are as glaring as they are, that it's tough not to. When they said they were going to remake this, I told a bunch of my friends, I was like, it's going to be either really bad or really good. There's not much room for an in-between in this kind of thing. Because, you can argue, as I said, that I'm nostalgic for the old one. I grew up watching the old one. I'm going to be a little biased. I'll admit that. I'm a little biased. But I can name a couple remakes that I like, fine and dandy. And I just use the word dandy. I apologize. But there are a few remakes that of old movies that I love that I genuinely like the remake. One of the newer ones made was the Fright Night remake. The original Fright Night with Chris Sarandon and everything is a great movie. It's a campy old 80s vampire movie, and that's exactly what it knows what it is, and it's good. You know, the effects don't hold up today, of course. I mean, but good for its time. The new one is a fantastic remake of that movie. It is fantastic in every step of the way. It pulls where it needs to pull, and it invents where it needs to invent, and it's very good. Everybody's cast right. Even Colin Farrell in there is freaking amazing in that movie. The new Evil Dead. Not so much a remake as a reimagining. Successful nonetheless. A little over the top, but and I don't really care for them changing the Ash character out, but again, a pretty good remake. That's just two of them that I can think of off the top of my head that I liked. Well, this one was not that great. I'm sorry. I don't know. Moving on to the ending. Oh boy, this is where it gets bad. It gets bad, people. I don't even know where to start on this, actually. The ending is so fast and so, I don't know, just so lazy that I can't even really comment on it. Like, I watched all the way up to this movie, and I'm like, I know at some point he's going to engage these Ed 209s, and he's going to have to fight the robots. Yes. Oh, yes, let's do it. Big robots, let's try it. And it gets to it, and I'm like, what? That's it? Really? That's it? You don't even see him, like, you can't tell me that the jets, the big military jets, aren't going to be there, too. Like, that'd have been cool to see him. It just seems like that they ran out of time and they couldn't figure out how to close it out. Even the very climax, when he's staring Michael Keaton down, and Michael Keaton's got the red band, so he can't attack him. It's a Deus Ex Machina. That's all it is. It's I don't even know. It's a MacGuffin. That's really what it is. A MacGuffin, it's a necessary plot point. Like, to further the plot, it's an object to further the plot. And this red band, which you see at the first of the movie when he puts on the reporter, and then you see it on Jackie Earle Haley's, and you see it on Michael Keaton. It just seems way too... I mean, how the hell does he still shoot him? There's no explanation to that. Still manages to override it. I mean, it's the human in him. I know. Okay, whatever. Okay. But even then, it's not that great. Like, even the original, he gets up there and he has an objective, or in the original, that he can't attack an OCP officer. So, Ronnie Cox's character has got the old guy, Pat O'Herlihy or something like that? Dan O'Herlihy is his name. He's got him, held as a human shield. And Dan O'Herlihy elbows him, says, hey, Dick, you're fired. And he elbows him and gets out of the way. And Robocop's like, thank you. And he shoots him. He shoots the shit out of him, and he falls out the window and dies. That's cool. It's entertaining. Like, it's a clever way around the objective. There's no clever to it. I don't know. It just didn't... It's just not that great. That's fantastic. Like, I expected, with the rising action, the action to rise, and it didn't, really. I'm sorry. I don't know. And the very end of this, like in the original, like, you see Peter Weller, he's coming for Boddicker when they're in the sewage pit, at the steel mill, and old Ray Wise, who's fantastic in there as well, drops the big container of I-beams and iron scrap on top of him, on top of Peter Weller. And when it hits him, the camera is, I'm just like, holy crap, he's going to be screwed up. Like, it. He's pinned underneath these damn columns, and Boddicker comes up there with this sharpened iron rod and is hitting at him, and he's blocking it and everything, and stabs him through the chest plate with it, and it's twisting it in there and everything. And I mean, it's brutal and visceral, and it's what you want out of an ending. And and then of course, the scene that everybody will remember ever that has seen the ending of the original RoboCop, he takes out the spike in his hand that he uses to jack into the mainframe and stabs old Kurtwood Smith in the throat with it, and it pulls it out, and the carotid artery in that neck just explodes all over him. just like it probably would, you know. And it's just a classic example. It's just like, wow, that's brutal. I mean, that's the way it needed to end. It needed to be them face to face, and it needed to be, it needed to be taken care of up close. And, he's pinned under there, and when he gets stabbed, he screams. The Robocop, when he gets stabbed in the chest, he screams, and it's like, holy shit, this is a human emotion. He feels it. And in the new one, it's not. There's just not that. I don't know. I had a lot of problems with the ending, as you can see. I always told you I could find good things about the new one, about every movie. The opening, as simple as it is, when they flash the screen title, the title of the movie, and they do the little dun 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 dun, like they do that riff there at the beginning. Just for like a few seconds. I'm like, that's good. That's good. You're paying homage to it. That's awesome. I like that. So I'm like, okay, well, there's a redeeming feature, okay? And then, oh my God. Then you get the scene in the middle of the movie where Michael Keaton and one of the other characters, which escapes my mind right now, are looking at one of the original designs for the suit. And I had heard this was supposed to be in the movie, and it was a scene they'd shot, but nobody really knew it was going to be in the movie. Sure enough, it's in the movie. And they've got a picture of the original suit on this hologram screen of the original Robocop from the original movie, the original design for the suit. And Michael Keaton's character in there is like, oh no, it looks terrible, or says something like that. Something mocking to it. And I'm like, wow, writers, way to go. Way to mock your source material. So here I am looking at this opening riff of this song, and I'm like, that's cool. They did that. That's really neat for them to do. And then they go and do this. And, I mean, yeah, it's a stupid joke. Okay, it's a stupid joke, and I'm probably bending it out of shape here a little bit, and then, making it a little bigger than it needs to be. But at the same time, like, yeah, you're mocking your source material. Like, come on. I mean, that's in ill taste, in my opinion. Now, one of the other elements in the new movie that isn't in ill taste, to show you that I'm not a complete ass about this, is the point when Jackie Earle Haley's character says, I wouldn't buy that for $1. And anyone who's seen the original will immediately jump to it. Like, the crazy guy on the TV is always saying, I'll buy that for $1. That's a good homage because it's meant to be funny. It's the old one is meant to be funny. That's a good homage. Making fun of that's great. But you don't make fun of your source material in the way it looks. I'm sorry. So whatever. And then the last thing I could really point on is the ending after, like the resolution, not the climax, but the resolution. There's no resolution. You see you see Abby Cornish and the son walk into the chamber with him, and the door's closed. Excuse me. And you don't even get to hear him talk. Yeah, you don't even get to, establish that, at all. So I'm, sitting there okay, you're not going to, okay, whatever. And, then the movie ends with Samuel L. Jackson's talk show again, and saying about America's the greatest country in the world. Blah. Okay, it ends. And then I'm like, okay, you're going to do the song, aren't you? You're going to do the original score. I'm going to, yeah. And then the Clash's I Fought the Law, I think it's the Clash version, I Fought the Law and the Law Won. their version of that song comes on, and I'm like, wow, okay. As much as I love this song, you just completely blew it again. I don't know, it's another small gripe, but at the same time, is there really any resolution? This isn't a happy ending, really. I mean, it is kind of, but, that's not the type of movie to end with, I fought the law and the law won. Come on, I don't know, it just seemed an ill taste, too, But, in the end, that's my big comparison. I think I've talked longer during a review during this one than I ever have before. I think even the Lone Ranger, the rant I had was only like 39 minutes. And I think I've been talking closer to an hour here. 50 minutes is what I'm clocking myself at right now. So, I mean, there's your overview. There's some stuff I probably missed. There's some stuff I didn't touch on. Yeah, but there's not much left to say. I always try to do this toward the end of a review. It's kind of, I guess, not really a trademark, but just something I like to do. Go see this movie if you haven't seen the original. Go see this movie. Really, if you haven't seen the original, go see this movie. So then when you watch the original, you will realize how good a movie the original really is. If you're a young kid and you haven't seen the original, go see this movie. Either watch the original, then watch this one, or watch this one and then watch the original. But go back to your source material, please. If you were a fan of Gary Oldman, go see this movie. Gary Oldman's good in it. I liked him. If you're a fan of Michael Keaton, might go see this movie. He's worth a watch all the time. If you're a fan of Samuel L. Jackson saying "motherfucker," go see this movie. You'll get to hear it. I think they used their one F-bomb in there for him to say that, if I remember right. Those of you that don't know the PG-13 thing, you can have one F-bomb in the movie. I think it'd still keep a PG-13 rating. I think that's still the case. Yeah, and if you are a hardcore fan of the original movie, don't go see this movie. Or wait till it comes out on DVD so you can scream at it in the comfort of your own home and aren't screaming in the theater and people think you're going to shoot up the theater. No, don't do that. Don't do that. That's not good. Yeah. If you're a fan of Peter Weller, you're not going to probably like this movie very much. If you're a hardcore fan of the character of Alex Murphy and what he represents in the original movie, don't go see this movie. I'm sorry. You're not gonna get what you're looking for. If you're a fan of a decent action movie, probably go see this movie. I mean, it's entertaining. It's entertaining enough. Don't put too much thought in it, and don't go in expecting Robocop. Your hardcore Robocop that you remember. That's my say on it. I guess I'll talk to you guys later. But as I said, subscribe if you want. Watch the other reviews on here if you like what you're hearing. Feel free to post down below on something that you want reviewed, maybe a new movie or whatever. I'll do book reviews too. I haven't done any, I haven't recorded any of them, but I've written a few. So yeah, I mean, as usual, try to keep it G-rated, and try to just be respectful on the wall, please. But yeah, I take requests, so thanks guys for tuning in, and if you enjoyed this, I'll try to do another one here soon. Thanks. Bye.